Pardon me while I have a strange interlude.
There is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art.
Along the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome back, my friends, to the AP Strange Show. I'm your host, AP Strange, and this is my show. And today's show is brought to you by the Bob Lazar Laser Tag Arena, set up to look like Area 51. You'll be given a laser gun that has element 115 in it, and at night, the red lights come on and all bets are off. So come down to the Bob Lazar Laser Tag Arena for birthday parties, bachelor parties, and little bits of disclosure. So today on the show, I have a returning guest, and with me to talk to him is a returning guest co-host. Tonight he's going to be my the Bill Moore to my Jamie Chandra, Blackwolf John Oates.
I should have cut my hair in bangs for this then. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. And we have a returning guest on tonight because last time we had Charles Lear on. We talked about his book, The Flying Saucer Investigators. And he has other books out too. Like we barely even really got to the 80s and 90s. So that's really what we're focusing on today because that's the era that his current writings are going to be about in his future book. But he has one out with an excellent cover by Red Pill Junkie called Crash Saucers and Malevolent Aliens, the Emergence of the Popular Modern UFO Mythos in the late 20th century. Definitely got that all off the top of my head and don't have the book sitting right in front of me right now. So welcome, Charles. Welcome back.
Hey, AP, good to be here, man.
Yeah, so this will be a lot of fun. I'm not even really sure where to start with this. Do you want to give my listeners a little overview of what inspired this specific book
what inspired this specific book was I wrote a couple of I'm a regular blogger for Martin Willis at Podcast UFO. I write a blog every week. So I wrote first a blog about abductions. I wanted to see where the grays really started coming from. The emergence of them and how the abduction story developed into the narrative everybody's familiar with. And that just got repeated ad infinitum in the 80s and 90s, ad nauseum, actually. And so I wrote, that turned out just to be like a two-part series. And I got into the whole mess with David Jacobs and Emma Woods and that whole sordid tale and Bud Hopkins and his star case, the Brooklyn Bridge abduction with Linda Napolitano and the UFO abduction soap opera that turned into. And then I took on UFO Cover-Up Live because it occurred to me that all the idiocy that was the 80s culminated in UFO Cover-Up Live. And I ended up doing a three-part series on that, behind the scenes kind of thing. And when I had the two of them, because I wanted to get started with the UFO investigators, and this, of course, was some of the stuff I would have had to have covered. And I thought, this is going to be a real labyrinth of material because you're dealing with Benowitz, Doty, Moore, the whole Roswell thing, just a whole mess of twists and turns. So I figured, well, why don't I get all this stuff out of the way? And I figured I could expand the two blogs into the book, and I did so. I did a hell of a lot of research. And made a lot of discoveries along the way. I was absolutely shocked at how idiotic the book, The Roswell Incident, actually was, because I never
Right.
read it. And how idiotic UFO Cover-Up Live was as well.
Right.
And a lot of just idiocy after idiocy throughout this whole saga. And
Yeah.
anyway, so I
Well, see, this
put
is
that
funny.
book out. I
Yeah.
put that book out. So now in this next book, I can focus on the stuff I feel is more credible and just say, for this, you go back to the other book because I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, you almost have to, when approaching the UFO subject, kind of like cordon off different aspects of it. There's different threads that you can pull on, and you're like, okay, well, this is the extra kooky stuff. And it's funny because the extra kooky stuff often gets dressed up as the more credible stuff because it's like, well, hey, look, we had a whole TV special, and our studio checked the background of this guy Falcon, and he's legit, he has credentials.
Yeah, and it's legit because this is actually old footage, and this is the guy who was the producer of the ABC News when this old footage was shot, but we're showing it to you as if it's live and not telling you.
Right. And I feel like that's kind of the era that I would have started getting into this stuff. Like my interest in weird subjects began with ghostly stuff because of experiences I had when I was a child. Um, and whenever I'd get the big books of unsolved mysteries, of course, UFOs is part of it. But it always kind of turned me off because you'd put on TV and it was always alien abduction stuff and Roswell stuff. And neither of those really like seemed likely to me. I like
Mhm.
it just kind of turned me off. I didn't really like, I liked Stan Friedman. I liked seeing him on TV, but like pretty much all the rest of it, I'm like, I'm not really, uh, I'm not sold on this whole idea of
You didn't
creatures
buy
from another
Victor?
planet.
Come on,
What?
Victor. I think I've earned my money. Oh. Remember the guy in shadow with the alien puppet?
Right. And the strawberry ice cream.
No, that was Doty.
Oh,
Um,
right, right.
yeah. No, they had this. Anyway, you were very astute. Let me put it that way, because back in the 80s, I was buying a lot of this stuff, and
Right.
I was like, there was this whole conspiracy UFOs and conspiracy theory were like really together, and you had guys like Jim Morris,
Yeah.
and it really went hand in hand. It really got kind of kicked off with like Cooper and Lear,
Mhm.
and uh, back then, I was into all that kind of stuff, and there was this whole thing like I remember there's a website and a series of books, Everything You Know Is Wrong,
Yeah.
and like I was into it and I was buying it.
Right.
I'm much older and wiser now, but it was
Yeah. The disinformation books, those were
yeah,
cool.
but the
Yeah.
thing is that yeah. The thing is that though the this stuff was coming fast and furious compared to how it was in the 50s and 60s and
Hmm.
70s, because all of a sudden, first thing that we got was VHS in the 80s and 90s, where everything became affordable, and all of a sudden you can bring home all these UFO documentaries, and if
Yeah.
were like really interested in it, you could watch all of them.
Right.
and and
Yeah,
then
I
the
know
internet.
what.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
I'm sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead.
And then the internet came along.
Hmm.
And what was really interesting about the internet is, you know, I heard you, AP, say before, one thing about ufology is you don't need any credentials to say you're a ufologist. You just, I'm
Right.
a ufologist.
Yeah.
Um, but, in the 50s and 60s, you pretty much had to write a book or at the very least put out a zine.
Right.
Uh, and
Or
have a
enlist with like APRO or
yeah, right.
NICAP or something. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but when the internet came along, all of a sudden, um, Bill Cooper and John Lear posted on it was actually just pre-internet on a bulletin board system started by Jim Spicer called Paranet. Bill Cooper and John Lear separately posted, and Lear had crazy credentials as far as, I think he had something like over 100 air records, had flown, I think he'd flown over 100 different types of planes, had multiple airspeed records, and military career. And he was the son of Bill Lear, who invented the Learjet and the 8-track tape.
Right.
And with those credentials, well, anything he says, people are going to buy.
Right.
But
And he took
and
full advantage.
and he sure did. That's where, he basically spewed out all the stuff that was coming from Bald Benowitz about the underground base in Dulce, New Mexico, vats of cattle and human parts being mixed up to
Yeah.
create sustenance for the aliens who
That
absorbed it through their skin.
that always seemed like a tell to me, or maybe some irony, that the deep underground military base, in short, if you make that a
Acronym.
acronym, is just dumb.
Yes, it's quite telling. Yeah, and Bill Cooper told a story of seeing a UFO tumble up out of the water. He was aboard a submarine, the USS Tiro, and him and his crewmates, he said, saw a UFO tumble up out of the water and then tumble back in, a big one. And but so these guys, all they did was post on a bulletin board system,
Mhm.
and out of nowhere they became superstars.
Right.
And that was a huge difference between the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. So then all of a sudden, all these people started crawling out of the woodwork. You had Robert O'Dean, who
Yeah.
he kind of looked like Gandalf, had that long hair and a big old gray ponytail, and he was so earnest. And he talked about his claim was that when he was at SHAPE, Supreme Allied Headquarters, Allied Powers Europe, I think it is. Um, he actually was stationed there, but he was a clerk.
Right.
But he of course makes himself look really big. Uh, Trying to, what was he? Um, yeah, he was a command sergeant major. That's what he retired as. Cosmic top secret clearance, but he claimed that uh, he was working at 2 in the morning, and the superior officer saw that he was having trouble staying awake. So he said, "Here, read this. This will keep you awake." And gave him this top secret document talking about the
As you would do.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
NATO's investigation of UFOs and the possible threat, and the conclusions that they're real and they're driven by aliens and that we've recovered craft and that whole rigmarole.
Right.
So he comes out of nowhere and just says, "Hey, well, I was a lieutenant colonel, I was in NATO, and uh, you know believe me because of my credentials." And then after that, you get Corso, the day after Roswell. And so,
Yeah,
it's
that
all
one's a
these,
mess. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah. And then not to mention all the people who popped up on Art Bell's show. I think you can speak to that, Black Wolf.
Oh, good Lord. What I was going to say earlier, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, I came to all this stuff through like the scholastic books, like Daniel Cohen books, where it's like just like listing UFO sightings and like Lonnie Zamora, things like that, all the famous ones, and it's just kind of this disjointed series of like people seeing things. But I remember my exposure, a lot of this stuff was I had a friend in when I was in college. Like when I first started college, he was a couple years older than me, and we were both like horrible insomniac chain smokers. And he was on like Paranet, and I had no idea what it was. And he'd keep me up all night just telling me all this stuff about underground bases and Dulce and all this shit. And what got me was there's a coherent narrative to it. I mean, coherent in quotes because it's insane, but there's a progression of this story. And so it's like, well, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Like, if,
Y-
it would, yeah, I mean, yeah, of course they would make a truce with us and then live underground and then have a laser fight with a guy and blow his arm off, and then they would Area 51 and then Robert Lazar. Like this all just had this coherency to it that random sightings didn't. So
It's
like,
amazing, yeah, that narrative, just how
yeah,
it
and it just
emerged.
and then I would hear those idiots on Art Bell, and I'm like, well, now they're famous, so it has to be real. Like these guys are like, they're writing books about it now. Like I didn't know that this was just my idiot friend staying up late and reading Paranet and then taking notes and then telling me about it, like because we were at a donut shop until 4 in the morning, and like, that just it has to be real. And
Yeah.
so that was, I think that's what made it so attractive too, is that there was a story.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's what's amazing is that, it all seemed to make sense. Oh, we know who they are, we know where they come from. I think part of Dean's thing was that the report said there were four distinct types of aliens. So, you had the humanoids, the really big human-looking ones, really big human-looking ones, reptilians, and grays. So there you go.
Yeah.
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 All the ones we
Now,
see, so that has to be right.
yeah, and I mean, and recently, like just in the past year, we've had kind of in the news. You've had stories about, I guess, the CIA or the Department of Defense. I guess it was common practice to seed fake stuff out to people almost as like a hazing, or to determine whether they could keep a secret or not.
Yeah.
So they they had to admit that they used to do that, like give people fake classified documents about aliens, and then
To keep them
So
there's
awake,
see,
of course. Yeah.
well, no, but you gotta see if it pops up somewhere and you can't trust the guy.
right,
Like I gave him the specific information. Hey, there's this underground base under the Prospect Park in Brooklyn, and if that shows up as specific as it is, and that's the only guy you told that to, bing, you know who you got.
well, right,
So, yeah.
and they kind of got Cooper with that, not in a government way, but they kind of seeded information to Cooper that he ended up sharing, and they knew that they made it up. So
Well, that was actually John Lear and uh, his buddy, I think his name was John Grace. Uh,
right,
yeah, they invented the OH Crow papers just
right,
out of nowhere, and they say this is all this information we're getting from this captured alien.
right, and then Cooper
And
was saying he saw it in the government
yeah,
document
on air
somewhere.
while
Yeah,
he's being
yeah,
interviewed, Cooper said,
right,
yeah, I saw this, and Lear took him aside and said, "Hey, Bill, what are you doing?" Me and John Grace made this up, and Cooper stuck to his gun, so claimed he really saw it. And Lear actually is quoted as saying, "That's what I began to wonder about Cooper."
right.
Well, you
Uh,
can't say Bill Cooper didn't have moxie. I mean, he
yeah.
was
Ah,
he was all flash. He was great.
yeah, I'll tell you, like I said, I would listen to him. He was a real good speaker. He had facts like on his fingertips, and like I was when I was a young conspiracy idiot, I was like, oh, I started buying him until it's like until you listen to him long enough, and then all of a sudden he starts taking these turns, and you're like, wait a minute, it's kind of like David Icke. When
Yeah,
he's talking about like, banker conspiracies and all this stuff. This is before I knew that a lot of this stuff comes from anti-Semitic kind of stuff. But I'm
Yeah.
listening to David Icke talk and following him, following him, following him. All of a sudden he does this turn, and it's the reptilians who are
And they're
behind it,
lizards.
and they're lizards. And
yeah.
what? Wait a minute.
Well, I mean,
So,
Cooper really tipped his hat because he barely coded it. He included the entirety of the uh, the Elders of Zion
Yeah.
paper that
yeah.
in Behold a Pale Horse, and you're just like, he's like, yeah, but you just take out the word Jews and put Illuminati, and that's it's real. It's just
Yeah.
nothing
Or
against the Jews. It's just about the Illuminati instead.
right. Well, the Anti-Defamation League really came down on David Icke because they basically say you place lizards with Jews, and that's what he's talking about.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty
you're like,
obvious. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's David really believes it's lizards. Uh,
Well, I also think he's a bigot, but I don't.
yeah.
The two things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Oh, speaking of that, Wendell Stevens, there's a guy.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
Because he was buddies with Robert O'Dean, and they hung out. They lived in Tucson, and back in the day, they were like they were on a lot of videos, and I remember just like I said, I was buying into a lot of this stuff, and it was like Gandalf in his Robert O'Dean was like Gandalf, and Wendell like kind of struck me as like this cute elfin kind of guy. And then now you read it, you find out that convicted child molester, and
Oh, good God.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, he spent I think he did 7 years in prison, and it wasn't his first offense. He admitted to like 3 counts. There were like seven against him or something like that. And part of it was like offering obscene materials to minors and possession and sex with a 14-year-old girl. And then it comes out that in his some of his papers and his archives are subscriptions to anti-Semitic and right-wing fascist literature. So it's like, wow, I'm thinking,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was
How
quite
much of a
something,
dirtbag can you be?
right? But
Just to be
not
clear, which one are we talking about here?
that's Wendell Stevens.
Wendell Stevens. Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because
I
he
mean,
published a lot of stuff. Like he
a
would just
lot of
kind of,
stuff. Yeah,
right.
I think like 22 books, something like that.
He's kind of responsible for the proliferation of the alternative three story, I think, right?
Billy Myers.
Yeah.
He's like the guy who got Billy Myers out.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and he was famous for having the largest collection of UFO photos or flying saucer photos.
Huh.
He would trade, and yeah, he built up a massive collection. I'm not sure where they are. It might be Anomaly Archives in Texas. I'm not positive. But yeah, I mean, he was famous for that. But he managed to like stumble onto like every idiot case you can imagine. Umo, I think he wrote a book.
Uma.
Umo,
Yeah.
yeah, one with
Yeah.
the saucer with the weird symbol on the bottom of it, and another
I love
strange.
that case though. That's like a really cool
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. But anyway,
Yeah, but you're talking about how they looked, and this is something that for listeners, Black Wolf and I both rewatched UFO Cover-Up live. I had to say it with the punctuation to get it really
Cover
appropriate.
up. UFO cover up live.
Like that, yeah.
it's
There's a question mark.
UFO cover up exclamation point colon
No,
live
it's
question
UFO
mark.
cover up question mark.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a question. UFO cover up live. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, I don't know because then you still got the upward inflection with the exclamation point at the end. So I think it would be more
I,
like UFO Cover-Up live.
Yes, you got it
I
in,
think you
Keith.
nailed it. I think you got it.
Very,
Yeah, that's it.
very awkward indeed. Whoever came up with that should have been canned. But having watched it yesterday, you mentioned the guy looking like Gandalf and Stevens looking like a little elf or something, and that was the first thing that struck me. And I was messaging Black Wolf yesterday. We were going back and forth like these guys are all awkward as hell looking.
Haircuts.
Like
Oh, the
Well,
haircuts.
he had them all reading from cue cards. The
Oh no,
producer
everyone
was
was
really
so awkward.
inexperienced. Yeah, and a lot of them were just not good at reading from cue cards.
they're so
Especially
wooden.
he had
Yeah.
Robert Friend, who was director of Project Blue Book in the 60s, and he was just so brutally awkward. Uh,
Yeah, it couldn't have been more obvious that they were reading off of a card just off
yeah,
camera.
and I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that there's this whole feed where they're talking to these Russian ufologists,
Oh,
and I'm pretty sure that was either pre-recorded or they just had a really bad feed. But I think it was pre-recorded and they played it off like it was live because you can see him. I think he actually asked a question as the guy was answering it.
mhm.
Yeah,
So,
they're talking over each other. Yeah.
it's not quite synced up. And
I was having a good laugh at that very awkward. They kept re-showing that like footage of Chandray and Moore in a black studio, and it looked like insurance agents or like personal injury lawyers. Like,
Right. Yeah,
call
like ambulance
Chandray and Moore.
chasers.
Yeah, it looks, and Bill Moore's hair was just, we could not stop laughing at Bill Moore's hair, and Bruce McAvee's hair were just glorious. Bruce McAvee was kind of groovy. He had a little groovy thing going with the ties.
Yeah, Moore
Well, that
looks so
reminds me, we have
awkward.
another sponsor for tonight's show, and it's Chandray and Moore, UFO adjustment claims. Have you had an incident with a UFO? You may be.
You may, you may have compensation coming your way. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. There it is.
You may be eligible for compensation.
There we go. Contact Chandray and Moore.
Send them a plain envelope with film in it, and they'll get right back to you.
It's astounding. I mean, the fact, Moore had Seligman, the producer, just worked up into such a frenzy. He took him to an island out in the middle of the Great Lakes, is one of the stories, to meet up with his aviary buddies, which probably included Doty, and Ernie Kellerstraus and people of that ilk. Kellerstraus was a hawk, and and so Sullivan was like thinking that this whole thing was real, paranoid as hell.
I remember reading I forgot that you were the one who wrote that 3-part article, which I really enjoyed about it. I remember reading that like a couple of months ago. Is there any? I don't remember anything about how they got Mike Farrell. I just want to know.
I have no idea. I have
how
no
they
idea.
got Mike. It's just the most random. You could say okay. There's a UFO show that came out in 1988. It was an hour and a half long. It was about the UFO Cover-Up live, and they got a host. Guess who it would be? You would never guess Mike Farrell. It was the most random person you could ever pull out. TV's Mike Farrell.
He seemed really disinterested too.
Yes.
He seemed like about 5 minutes in, he realized what he got himself into. He's like, I cannot believe I have to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you watch it live, Charles?
Yes, I did.
I did too. I was like 9, and I remember like being so excited about this. I made my parents watch it too.
Yeah.
I'm sure they absolutely hated me for it. But
your poor mother. She's been subjected to so much.
My mother's been through RoboCop 2, and then it's put my mom through a lot. But I think RoboCop 2 is Citizen Kane compared to UFO Cover-Up Live. That is
brutal. Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing with Falcon and Condor, and Richard Doty. He's wearing his freaking glasses. I mean, you can see it's totally him.
You can tell immediately it's Richard Doty. Oh, it's Doty.
But it's footage they shot I think a couple years before for an ABC special that never aired. And it's not live. It's footage that Moore had been shown to people. And Jim Moseley actually mentions it, and John Lear mentions seeing the same footage that they showed on UFO Cover-Up Live.
And they made it sound like it was a question and answer thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Totally. We've been lied to, man.
I did enjoy some of like the men, like the way they pull out that couple who saw a UFO, and the guy's got the jacket with the leather on it.
From New York, right?
His wife looks like Joan Cusack in Working Girl, just this giant hair and
shoulder pads.
It was glorious. And the Gulf Breeze parts were just especially awkward as well.
Right.
I'm not sure where everyone stands on Ed Walters here, but
Oh yeah, well, what's really funny is you got Bruce Maccabee vouching for the authenticity
100% real,
and another photo analyst, I forget his name, showing, look, see this image? It's the same one, copied and pasted.
You can see the cut line right here.
Clearly showing. It's like so obvious.
Well, it's funny because it's like I think the Walters photos they look to me like a more modernized version of the Adamski ones. It looks very similar to me, but Black Wolf and I have talked about this too. privately, but it seems like Jeff Ritzman of the Paratopia podcast was all in with Walters too. He thought a lot of that stuff was really intriguing, which gives you kind of pause because like I respect Jeff Ritzman's opinion and stuff.
Well, yeah,
Like,
well,
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people say there was some actually stuff going down in Gulf Breeze.
right,
There were actual sightings. So maybe, Walters took advantage of the fact that there was this stuff going around and said, he could cash in on it.
yeah,
But yeah, I totally don't buy Walters.
yeah. I always figured that there was something going on, but yeah, that Ed Walters was just full of it, and he was
Yeah.
just cashing in. But I fully believe it. I mean, I remember when I was younger and hearing about that in the news because it was pretty big news across the Gulf Coast. And I live in New Orleans, so that was it was made the news here pretty frequently. So I remember that going down. And it was a pretty big deal.
What's crazy is the Gulf Breeze 6. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yep.
that a bunch of military they were intelligence people from Germany. Well,
Both
they went,
stationed in Germany. Yeah,
yeah,
Americans stationed in
American
Germany, for to
station.
be clear. Yeah,
They went AWOL.
didn't a Ouija
Uh,
board tell him to go?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, they went AWOL to I think it turned into like let's find the I think Antichrist who's coming in Jesus is coming in a UFO, and they're also
in
looking for the
Pensacola
I
apparently.
think they're looking for the Antichrist, and I think they thought Ed Walters was the Antichrist, and
mm.
it got nuts. But
They
what's
should have
really
gone to Mar-a-Lago.
yeah, but what's
Oh,
crazy
hell, I've been
is
in North Florida. I think you probably could find the Antichrist there pretty easily. I mean, yeah,
but I think there's a link between them and the wacky stuff that was going on. Richard Doty was stationed over in Germany
of course he was.
and I think at Lindsay Air Base, and that's where he, like right after and I think there's a tie between that and them. Um, but I think some of the guys from I think there was somebody over there from the whole men who stare at goats kind of people.
Really
Uh,
put off for somebody.
it wasn't him, but it was I think somebody involved in all that spoon bending and
Huh.
remote viewing kind of stuff was over there. So I think, and the Gulf Breeze 6 at least happened around the same time that Jim Shannon was getting the First Earth Battalion thing going around.
Hmm.
So there was that kind of stuff going through the pipelines in the military at the time. So I can see, military people using a Ouija board might not have been so wacky back then.
Huh.
Um, but yeah, Doty, right after the whole Paul Benowitz affair, uh, he got sent over to Germany to work counterintelligence. And it seems like Benowitz was his first counterintelligence gig. Um, and in my mind, they said, "Oh, okay, either you've stirred up quite a hornet's nest here. Why don't we get you the hell out of the country
Right.
and you can go to do some counterintelligence in Germany?" And he screwed up there. Apparently, he got caught lying about his, uh, I think, his Russian contacts. And he got stripped of a FOSI and they sent him back to Kirtland, and he finished out his last year uh, as head of the mess hall.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, when he's like talking about having clearances at Kirtland, like he was just in charge of the kitchen, I think. So really,
yeah,
Not an easy job. No.
yeah, but he's still running around lecturing like he was
no,
like
I
this
mean
Yeah.
big deal.
all due respect to chefs, but
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, that's something I I think it's really interesting when you put the context of when you put the whole 80s thing and leading up to UFO Cover-Up Live into context with the whole thing that was going on in the military at the time. We had people like John Alexander, who was one of the aviary, and the aviary, by the way, was just bird names given to all the military contacts, Chandray and Moore were meeting with, they just made up the names themselves. There was no organized group called the Aviary. Moore says this repeatedly.
I was
Um,
so disappointed when I found that out. I was like, I
yeah,
really hope they gave themselves those names.
yeah, and was Ralph Blum actually wrote a book, kind of,
Well,
like this
yeah.
is real.
As with
Uh,
everything else, it takes a life of its own, where it seems like this is a splinter cell of government intelligence, and they call themselves the
yeah,
Aviary.
yeah.
Like,
So much cooler. When I found out they didn't, I was like, oh.
But you put it in the context of, the First Earth Battalion and the remote viewing program going on at the same time. And Maccabee actually wrote a piece called Hawktails, where he talked to Ernie Kellerstrass. And
mm,
Kellerstrass is talking about, all these tales of like, well, I think a friend of a friend saw an alien body and, in the Manzano weapons area and blah, blah, blah. But one thing Maccabee said was that the remote viewing program, because some of the remote viewers were claiming to be in touch with the saucer people, they wanted to verify that there actually were saucer people. So they reached out to ufologists.
mm,
And Maccabee says there was a connection, maybe perhaps an unwanted connection, between the remote viewing program and ufology.
right,
So, which kind of explains why you have people like John Alexander, Hal Puthoff, and all these people coming out to Moore
mm,
and giving him information that they're hearing, and there's this whole feedback loop going on
yeah,
between, uh, people in the military and intelligence. I heard from a guy who heard from a guy, then telling a ufologist. And then the ufologist says, well, I heard from a military intelligence guy. So I heard
right,
from a guy who heard from a guy turns into I heard from a military intelligence guy
yeah.
that this stuff is real. And yeah, and it just keeps like feeding back on itself, and all this stuff just spirals into into the mess we have today.
Yeah, I mean, it's still happening now.
It's
When we have these
still,
congressional hearings, it's like, okay, what evidence do you have? Well, I was told by somebody who heard from another person that was,
it's the
uh,
same stuff.
yeah,
It's the same stuff.
privy
It's
to information from somebody that was there. You're like, okay, how many degrees of separation are we again? Really?
yeah, but yeah, I mean,
um,
it's just ufology is just really bad at cleaning house. It's
right.
it's
Well, a
like,
lot of these guys are still around. Like
Still
yeah,
around.
Doty's still around.
yeah.
John Alexander he's an especially spooky guy. He's still around, I think. Right? Like
Yeah,
he's
you
still
should
out there.
check out his website. It's awesome.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's still out there. I think it's pretty dated as well. But he
And
just lists telepathy experiments with dolphins and all kinds of wonderful stuff.
well, I'd be
Um,
willing to believe that. I mean, that's like the John C. Lilly stuff, like
Yeah.
from the 70s. Yeah.
yeah, no, Alexander is definitely a pretty open-minded guy. Uh,
That's one
but
way to put it. Yeah.
he was a pioneer in non-lethal combat, uh,
Right.
non-lethal
And I think
weaponry.
psyops, right? Like,
Mhm.
so, so you take that for what it's worth, you know?
Yeah,
Um, and then John Lear, of course, passed away a couple of years ago. Um, so,
yeah, he's a fascinating guy. For me, it seemed to me like, and I've said this before. It seemed to me like John Lear assumed that most people in ufology are just making this stuff up, and kind of like pro
so he was playing
wrestling.
the game as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of, and it's like, wink, wink, nod, nod. Yeah, we all know this is fake, but it's fun, right?
Yeah.
They just made stuff up.
Well,
I mean,
John Lear was able to deliver some of the craziest shit with a complete with such perfect intonation and shit. The soul stealing machine on the moon. That is incredible. A machine on
so
the moon stealing souls.
I
That
hadn't heard
he
that
went
one.
on the air and said that with a straight face.
That's
And that's
awesome.
amazing. that
Oh,
takes
Wait,
wow.
so I mean, let's unpack that one a little bit, Black Wolf, because
I hadn't heard that one.
I want to
I
know
knew the
about this machine on
Stargates.
the moon.
I'm almost, please, if I'm wrong, someone correct me. I apologize. I'm a 99% sure it was John Lear said that there was a machine on the moon that the Greys were using to collect souls.
That's
Okay,
awesome.
is it on the
Um,
dark side?
no, well, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it's one of those. I'm sure Hoagland can tell us, but yeah, there was a machine on the moon stealing souls. Or that's maybe not stealing them, collecting them. Let's say collecting souls. I don't know if it was
Mhm.
necessarily like evil and stealing souls, but that was like when we die, there's a machine on the moon that's going to collect our souls, which is not that far from Scientology, if we're being honest here. Like
Yeah.
we're not getting that far off that stuff. So and John and I remember the Lear test was my absolute favorite. The Lear test where he gave his spiel about everything that's true about UFOs and the cosmos, and if and you had to hear it. If you heard the Lear test, you would have to decide whether you would tell people about it or if you'd keep it a secret too. That was the whole thing. He was like that Venus is inhabited. They've been showing us fake pictures of Venus, and that there's like 5 different alien races, and they're doing all these different things. And then he would say to Art, "You go, no, Art, knowing what I told you just now, would you tell the American people the truth about UFOs?" And I said, "I don't
What
think I
did
could do it." And of course, Brookings Institute would come up, and then we just move on.
Right.
Brookings, Art, Brookings.
uh,
Well, I mean, because if you're, I think you have to come up with an origin point, right? And a lot of people are going to pick like Venus or Mars or the moon because those are the closest things. In the contactee era, certainly you had a lot of that. Um, and specifically, I'm thinking like Trevor James Constable. I want to do a whole episode on him someday, but
oh boy.
his first book, he's just channeling Ashtar the whole time. Ashtar,
Mm.
there's like an invisible Ashtar following him around, and and there's talk about satanic moon people. There's just like this race of people on the moon that are aligned with hellish forces that Ashtar is opposed to.
Wow,
Um,
I only knew Constable from the air critters.
yeah, nobody ever talks about his first book, They Live in the Sky, because
Oh,
it's really hard to find, but it's super interesting. Um, and I had 2 copies of it. I sent one to Aaron Gullius, but he's no longer doing the saucer life, so that's a bummer. He
I
never got
didn't know
around to
that.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, no. He called it quits, and uh,
yeah,
good opportunity to wish him the best because it was a great run. That was
yeah, no
really one of
doubt.
my all-time
Eight
favorite
years, man.
podcasts.
8 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of people are starting to fade out.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, go out on your own terms and do it when you want to. I mean, I'm all for it. He doesn't
Yep.
owe us anything. He gave us tons of free content for 8 years.
Yes, he did.
I think I started listening at episode 4 or so. So I was like, wow, has it been that long? Have I been listening to Ghoulies for that long?
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was getting to though is yeah, you do need to like pick some origin point. And this gets into somebody that Black Wolf and I joke around about a lot. Is Richard Hoagland and his
Oh,
ideas about the moon and Mars and the face on Mars. Never shut up about it. He's still talking about it to this day.
I remember the commercials for like his VHS tape. They used to come on at night. You remember those commercials?
Yeah,
Maybe it was just a local. They like it was like a VHS tape, of course, like 44.99 or whatever you could buy. It was good old Dickie Hoags doing his lecture with the bow tie and the leather jacket. Just it's the silver fox of it all. It was beautiful.
right.
Um, but
but I mean, his background is pretty amazing. I just, because I looked him up just to really find out who he was, and just from his Wikipedia page, they pull no punches. It says Hoagland has no education beyond the high school level. Okay, but what's crazy is that he was a curator of astronomy and space science at Springfield Science Museum, 1964 to 67, assistant director at Grangress Science Center, in West Hartford, Connecticut from 67 to 68, was a science advisor to CBS News during the Apollo program,
That's the one he always hangs his
1968
hat on.
to 71. Uh, and what's crazy is he started uh, a oh he started a petition. Yes, that's what the word I was looking for. He started a petition to a letter writing campaign, and persuaded Gerald Ford to name the first space shuttle the Enterprise. Uh, and but then he
Oh, he's a
claims,
Trekkie, so it can't
He's
be
a
yeah,
all
big
that
trick.
bad. Yeah.
yeah. But he
Enterprise mission. That was his website for
he,
years.
he
Yeah.
got the International Angstrom Medal for Excellence in Science, apparently by mistake, because it wasn't authorized.
Yeah.
It wasn't authorized by the people who give it out, Uppsala University or the Royal Swedish Academy of Science.
Yeah,
I
someone went rogue on that and gave it to him and didn't tell anybody.
think it
And
was
then
Mr. Angstrom himself.
he always brought that. Art always used that as his introduction. Angstrom award-winning scientist,
Yeah,
former science advisor to Walter Cronkite, and
yeah, he stated in Angstrom said in May 2000 that always a word to Hoagland was a mistake. He acted in good faith with good intentions. Uh, but and then he claimed to have designed the Pioneer 10 plaque, which was actually designed by Sagan and his wife and Frank Drake, which was total BS as well. But
Right.
story that Hoagland can't work himself into. There isn't a single event in human history that Hoagland can't work himself
yeah,
into.
but it's an interesting thing. Like he was going, man. I mean, come on, uh, a self-taught astronomer, and it's kind of funny. It's like astronomy and uh, uh, paleontology are two things that, like ufology, you can just get into as you find.
Yeah, you can make the claim for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
if you find something that nobody else has spotted, you get to name the star, or or whatever.
That's
You
true.
Get
bring
an
up the
Angstrom medal for
attention,
it.
and bada bing, you're an astronomer. And the same thing with paleontology. You find you find kids like find bones, and oh geez, a species that's never been discovered before, and by God, you're a
Yeah.
paleontologist if you want to keep going. I mean, Ray Sanford.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, he could like psychically find him, I guess. Yeah.
but
We're
Ray Stanford's his track he's his main thing was finding trackways. So he would dig them out of the ground. So a trackway is like a huge slab of stone.
right.
Um, but he had them all in his house, and there's a picture of him in his house. He had to reinforce his floors, and he's literally got like pathways. It's like somebody who collected old newspapers and had piles, and had
Yeah.
pathways. His house was just filled with these trackways and other
So
fossils, not only
right.
trackways, but bones, but yeah, and he had to reinforce his floors in order to so his house can cave in.
So he was a hoarder of fossils then.
A
Yeah.
fossil hoarder, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But
I know Red Pill wrote an obituary for him because he passed away this past year, I think.
yeah, I
Right?
wrote one
Yeah.
too because he
Yeah.
was he was a friend of the show of podcast UFO. He would call up Martin on a regular basis.
Oh, cool.
And he actually when I first started writing, he called me. He was the first guy to call me out because I accidentally I was writing a thing on Westall 66, the whole Australia, was that Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The school landing.
yeah, and all
Yeah.
the kids, and there were some saucer nests described, and I just found a picture of a saucer nest and popped it in as an illustration. And Ray said, Charles, you have to be very careful. There were no pictures taken of saucer nests at Westall. And, if you present a picture like that, you're being disingenuous and making, and he just really laid into me for putting that up. I said, thank
Yeah,
you, Ray. And after that, I've been really careful because holy people are watching. People actually read this crap.
yeah. Well, people are quick to keep you on your toes. The
Yeah.
trouble is, a lot of them end up being wrong. I mean, if it's Ray Stanford, it's one thing, but if it's just some rando on the internet, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, there's
But
several things you can do with that piece of advice.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I mean, at least Ray was fun, you know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of these, a lot of guys from the past were fun. Some of them were more problematic, and others were just like, you know, rubes. We've got plenty of rubes nowadays, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of
But,
rubes. Yeah, and that's
uh,
the thing about this stuff is it's kind of fun to read about. It's kind of fun to kind of like, fall into it and follow the trail. But the people involved with it were not fun. They were dead serious,
Some of
intelligence
them,
types.
yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
just there's no joy to be found in this. It's all very serious and
Well, it's
then
like Moore. Moore was just like, he was so serious and took himself seriously. And it's like,
he gave
dude,
himself that haircut. What is he doing?
uh,
I'm gonna take you seriously. You have a bowl cut. What are you doing, man? You have a
and
well, he
pudding
just
bowl
put the
cut.
soup bowl. He put the soup bowl on his head and just cut around it.
and his whole his whole 1989 speech where he quote unquote came clean. It's uh he actually said he hit the crowd up for money. He said if you want to support our work, it costs a lot of money to go out and do some research. So, contributions would be welcome. This is in his speech after he's just admitted to working as a CIA with a CIA disinformation agent.
Oh my
Right.
God.
And
Yeah.
he actually hit them up for money. Yeah.
Well, in a way, though, I see a couple honorable qualities about Moore there just for owning up to it. And in a way, that calls out a lot of the people in the room, too,
But
because a
he
lot of
was
people are
doing
doing,
it. I think he was doing it because Lear and Cooper, Lear was actually running that convention. Lear and Cooper were running away with the narrative, and he wanted to regain control of it. That's how I see it. I don't see
uh,
it because
but
people
then
were
he kind of
already
retired.
people were already calling him out,
Yeah.
and I think he spoke with Don Ecker as late as 1994. Um, so, he was trying to get back into it.
Huh.
But yeah,
He was
I
like
think he was,
persona non grata, though. Nobody wanted to.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, yeah. After that, forget about it. I think Greg Bishop who was there, talked about Bill English saying he was going to run out and get a fire hose.
I feel
But
like there needs to be a movie about like that conference. Just
yeah,
Yeah.
like a,
well, yeah, Cooper and Lear, like Cooper had, I think the night before the conference, Cooper was drunk in Lear's hotel room, drinking heavily and threatening him, saying, yeah, I think he accused him of being being a disinformation agent and
yeah.
trying to discredit him, and Lear was freaked out by all that.
Well, Cooper
Uh,
was probably packing heat. I can imagine that guy didn't go anywhere without a gun.
I imagine too, yeah. And and then just you know, Lear and his basically Lear and his dark side buddies, uh, Cooper and English, and actually Don Ecker was part of that as well. He was studying human mutilations, uh,
Yeah.
and um, they weren't allowed to speak at the main convention, even though Lear was running it, because Walt
Huh.
Andrus, head of MUFON, was getting so many complaints. Richard Hall, who was Donald Keough's right-hand man at NICAP, resigned from the board because Bill Cooper was speaking, and so Andrew said, "Look, John, it's okay to MC, but you can't speak." And there was complaints about John Lear too, and Lear threatened to take the whole convention down the street, and he said, "Well, it was arranged that Lear would have his own room and kind of like an annex." Um, and he charged people, I think, $15 a head to get in. And so
Mm.
he and his UFO Dark Speak siders spoke the next day. And the stories that came out of that were just outrageous. I think something like I think it was English, might have talked about 88 dissident scientists being executed for threatening to
Wow.
expose Dulce. Yeah, it was crazy. Um, but yeah, this is after, but more speech. Yeah, if you really look at it, you can. I when I looked at it, what I saw was him really trying to point out that Lear and Cooper and their ilk were uh, everything that was coming out of their mouths was the result of a disinformation program that he was privy to, which is why, in my mind, he was admitting to it, so he could regain control of the narrative.
Mm. And you think he kind of took a step back because he couldn't get back in, or do you think he's just threw up his hands eventually? Because as far as I know, he's still alive, but nobody's heard
Yeah,
from him in a long time. Yeah.
no, I think he'd had it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, he tried to get out another book, and I think it's Todd Zechel. Um, in a book he was in I think he wrote it under oh, I should get this out. Uh, in He wrote this report uh, where he was calling out really calling out Maccabee for being for his ties to the CIA,
Yeah.
and he also mentions Moore, and he mentions Moore trying to put out a book, and Moore had a zine called Focus, and he, he had an ad for this book that Zechel compare. Yeah, here it is. Uh, yeah, he offered a book that he, Doty, and Chandray were writing as a free benefit to people willing to send him $25 to resubscribe to his magazine Focus. The book, titled The Scientist, the Government, and UFOs, Personal Recollections of the Paul Benowitz Affair. It was supposed to be available in 1992, and he described its promotion as tabloid-like. Government cover-up, disinformation, UFO abductions, alien underground bases, secret treaties with extraterrestrials, plots to take over the Earth and take over and enslave Earth, Dulce, New Mexico, blah, 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 blah. And so he said hundreds of suckers reportedly sent in their $25 and got nothing for it as the book was never printed and Focus folded. Moore is said to have gone on to be the executive editor for Far Out magazine, put out by Hustler magazine publisher Larry Flint.
Hmm.
So at least he
Far out,
was
man.
active as least as late as 1992. Uh, so,
He ended up running like Easy Riders or something like that. Oh,
uh, but
Yeah. Well, there's always a grift and there's always drama. Um, it's kind of funny. You look at like, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but when I was, UFO Twitter was always such a disaster because it was just people arguing and sniping at each other. And you'd always see people like, well, we all want the same thing, like, we want disclosure, right? And it's like, no, not really.
No, I'm
But
good.
people acted surprised that everybody that was interested in UFOs couldn't get along with each other. I'm like, look at the history of the subject, man. Like they
Never
never
have.
did, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I mean, wasn't as bad back in the old days as it is now. And I like the whole feuds between Jim Moseley and Cor Lorenzen. Uh,
yeah,
Coral Lorenz, she was difficult to get along with, but she really had it in for Mosley, and she would set herself up constantly, and that Jim Mosley claims to have the secret. Mosley was doing this whole bit on the whole Bender mystery.
mhm,
So when he was putting out Nexus, and this is way back in the 50s, when he was putting out Nexus, he was parodying it. So he would put in one issue, he says, in the next issue, we have the secret of UFOs. In the next issue, we'll give it to you, essentially. And then
yeah,
then he says, we have been advised not to. So it's a whole parody of the whole Bender thing. Meanwhile, Coral Lorenzen takes it seriously and says, well, that's Jim Mosley. He's not telling us, and he claims to know the secret, and then blah, 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 blah. And she's just like falling right into his traps, you know.
right,
And but that's as bad as it got back then. It's like you said, it's a lot worse nowadays.
yeah.
Um,
Well, it's amplified like everything else, you
well,
know.
yeah. Oh, I mean, there was a great story about her and a drunk Gray Barker having a wrestling match because there was this really apparently really bad UFO footage that came to her attention during I think an APRO convention, and they Gullius does a whole bit on this where after the main convention they took selected invited people to go view this UFO footage. And
Mhm.
Gaius went on Apro after dark, you know. But so a lot of people were pissed off they couldn't get in to see it. Apparently Hynek was there and went running for the door as soon as it came on. He was like, "Oh my God!" But then Gray Barker got drunk in the hotel bar and came back and was trying to force his way in. And he and Lorenzen had a wrestling match. So that's a good one.
Well, ufology isn't all that different from professional wrestling, you know.
No, it
No.
isn't. It really isn't.
So I
Yeah.
had a question. Out of curiosity, where do all the abduction folks fit in all this? Like, how do are Bud Hopkins and John Mack, are they connected to this whole, Bill Moore, John Lear thing? Or are they kind of their own separate
Yeah,
thing?
it's kind of interesting. They sort of were their own separate thing. It was just like real specialized, and yeah, they didn't seem to intermingle in anything I've really read. Um, the they Hopkins was really tied up with MUFON, so you know his Andrus and there's a big thing with Andrus and Jerome Clark really backing him up when uh, George Hansen, the guy who wrote Trickster and the
Yeah.
Paranormal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hansen actually, him and a couple of other authors wrote a paper about the whole Brooklyn Bridge fiasco, Linda Napolitano thing, pointing out all the BS and basically uh, pointing out all the flaws with the case and the flaws in Hopkins' investigative methods. And there's a whole thing with one of the authors of the paper, being with Anderson, Jerome Clark, and Hopkins, and suggesting, well, Linda Napolitano claimed that she was abducted twice, and one of the two police officers who Hopkins who came forward 14 months later, and Hopkins never met, only got letters and tape recordings of these guys saying they saw her floated out of her 12-story apartment window. Uh, the story was that came from Linda was that one of them tried to rape her. She was abducted twice, so it was suggested that the police get involved, which panicked Hopkins and Andrews, um, and Jerome Clark as well. And so they really stuck by Hopkins. And not only that, Hopkins later wrote uh, to, I think, Hansen, uh, ordering him, his words, to cease his investigation and leave it
Mm.
to us and move on. So that's like an interaction between other ufologists in the general population
Yeah.
and these abduction specialists. But yeah, it seems really to have been its own tight little thing.
Well, it
Uh,
seemed to me that with Hopkins and Jacobs, um, probably Mac probably to a lesser degree, but with those two at least, it was all about getting a book deal and writing a book. You know, they didn't really care about necessarily the bulletin boards or the government intrigue aspects of it. If they could get a good book out and sell a lot of it, you know, which of course ties to like the whole, Whitley Strieber's wrapped up in all of this stuff too, because him and Hopkins were kind of tight, you know.
mhm.
So with the success of Communion, I mean, that's kind of a gold mine there. And
Yeah,
I feel like that was a big driver for both Jacobs and Hopkins is to have that next big book.
yeah. A
Because
lot of people don't
Hopkins' book
realize.
Intruders did really well. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people I have a copy of that around here somewhere, you know.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
But a lot of people don't realize Leslie Kane was romantically involved with Hopkins,
Yeah.
yep, that's true.
and she's well, look at the ruckus she just caused in
Yeah,
2017.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, and it was presented as like journalists that didn't already have, an interest in this or breaking the story with the New York Times, and you're like, Leslie Kane, though? I mean, like,
yeah, it'd be like Linda Moulton Howe
right.
writing and breaking a story at the New York Times.
I for one miss Linda Moulton Howe. I truly miss that woman. I drew great joy from her appearances on Dreamland and Coast to Coast. I just found her endlessly fascinating.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, the
she
half
uncovered some of,
cats.
well, she uncovered legitimately interesting things. It's
Yeah.
just that she was so credulous. She believed literally everything, and she had it all on like cassette. You could hear her clicking the cassette recorder on the phone. It was so adorable and so low tech, and I just took endless joy from listening to her with her little voice. Oh, she was so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people were just like earnest, and even if they're deluded, but
Yeah,
not on the grift. Yeah, it's like somebody I'm
she's
more with them.
she's like
Right.
doing leg work. She's traveling around the country interviewing people, and yeah, she wasn't like
It's like
she made.
Stan Friedman, the
Yeah,
same
she
thing,
made. Yeah,
he was
I think she made
earnest,
one movie in the 80s. She made that Strange Harvest documentary.
Yeah.
She never made another movie. She didn't have a book. She had her terrible, cheap website and her cassette recordings, and she was just hitting the pavement, man. And she was doing the work. And as goofy as it might be, I have to respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that, definitely.
Yeah. And Stan Freeman was on the circuit forever, like right up till the end almost. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Do you think Stan Freeman could give his lecture by memory by the end? I bet he could, right? I mean, he had that thing memorized. There's no
well,
lecture
I've
Yeah.
being hard.
I've
If he had
heard
been in a coma, he could have been still doing it, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah. I mean, I remember I read, I think it was on the Wikipedia page for UFO Cover-Up Live, that Stan Freeman was deeply embarrassed by his involvement on that. He said he was like hoodwinked. He thought it
Right.
was something completely different, and when he saw it, he was deeply embarrassed. Well,
He was the most normal looking person on, which is saying something.
Yeah.
Stan Freeman looked like Tom Cruise compared to the rest of those nerds.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie star good looks of Mike Farrell, of course, being
But he said, "We
DJ
have
Honey.
proof. We have proof. He had the smoking gun."
Oh man, all that Roswell stuff.
But
Roswell was always just so.
Friedman actually, I mean, he goes way back. He was a giant rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, Jim Moseley complained in Jim. Hello, sirens. Uh, Greg Bishop's show. He always used to comment on the sirens outside his window.
Yeah.
But
That's weird because I got him here too at the same time.
oh, right on.
Yeah.
Okay. But where were we? Oh yeah, Jim Moseley actually complained in shockingly close to the truth that Friedman was the guy who undercut it, would under basically uh, call up people who had scheduled Jim Moseley to speak because Jim Moseley was like a big speaker back in the day. Everybody wanted
Right,
him
right.
because he came cheaper than Kehoe. That's how he got into it, and so he was a go-to guy. And then Friedman, he complains about Friedman calling people and saying, "You don't want Jim, you want me," and I think underbidding him.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's way back when. So Friedman had been around forever.
Yep.
And I remember
Yeah, and he actually uh oh man, he actually won a bet with one of the big skeptics. Was it
it's
Randy?
class. It was it?
Oh,
Yeah, I
Philip
think it
Glass,
was.
yeah.
What? No, I think
Philip,
you were right. I think it was Randy. I think it was Randy.
no, I think you were right, actually.
Somebody looked that up.
I think it was Philip J. Class that had said that the certain Majestic 12 documents couldn't have been real because the Army never used a certain kind of typewriter that this was apparently made with at the time. And Friedman had gone through like hundreds of records to find just one document from an Army Air Force base where it was that same typeset from a
It was
typewriter.
Class. It was
That was
Philip
Class,
Glass.
yeah,
Yes, it
yeah.
was.
But I actually saw Kathleen Marden do a presentation about Friedman. She talked about this up at the Exeter Festival a few years ago. But
Okay.
yeah, but then he kept the check from Class. I don't think he ever cashed it. He just kept it like in a frame on his wall,
Oh, right on.
like a trophy.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah, cool
Yeah,
stuff.
I found there's some telling stuff in the MJ12 documents that well, I mean, they got the date wrong of the, the whole Roswell when the wreckage was discovered. Uh, I think that the date's wrong because the alien bodies I think were out too long because it was actually discovered by Brazel. I think it was June 14th.
Hmm.
So this was before it was definitely discovered before the whole Arnold sighting. So it was before anybody, flying saucers were even a thing. So they screw up the dates in the MJ12 documents related to that. Uh, and uh, yeah, and the other thing too is a whole FBI release of the documents where they have bogus written across it.
Hmm.
The memo is the first memo is to uh, I think there was an accusation that somebody had these documents illegally. It might have been more. And the FBI, a local FBI special agent was looking into it. And a Fozy sent him a letter saying, we know these are bogus. So Doty was working for a Fozy. And so a Fozy like said, these are bogus and don't tell anybody. Keep this top secret. So back then, that what's released now. If you get the FBI documents, you can see this memo from a Fozy to the special agent saying, "We know these are bogus." So and ask him to keep it secret. So
Wow.
that's really telling in my mind. But
Yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, and I mean, well, Stan Friedman stuck with the MJ12 thing right till the end
right
too. He
to the
never
end.
gave up on
All the
that.
way.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah. Got
But
$16,000 too from Fu Four and Whitley Strieber.
yeah, good old Whitley.
Yeah.
Well,
Wait.
Strieber probably claimed to have seen some of the documents himself too. There's nothing that could have happened to
Well,
anybody
he
that Whitley Strieber hasn't
more
also
mentioned
experienced.
Strieber in his '89 speech.
Yeah,
Saying, I was jealous and suspicious of him, didn't think much of him, but then I met the man, and I've come to respect him, and look out for this guy. He's got something to say.
he's
Well,
an up and comer.
yeah, because he was
Well, they
writing
cut
the
him in
book.
Jim.
He was writing the book that Moore tried to write with Bob Pratt, the fictionalized version of his shenanigans with Doty.
Okay.
So Whitley actually wrote the book, and
Hmm.
so this is like, yeah, because uh, I've actually read the book too. It's it's pretty brutal. Uh, I'm trying to look for it, what the book is called. Um, uh, yeah, here it is. He says, because Moore did a whole question and answer thing. He asked the questions and answered them himself at the end of his speech. And then he asked himself what he thinks of Whitley Strieber and his abductee claims. And then he answered that he was very skeptical and jealous of him, but took the time to get to know him so he could assess things for himself. And he said that Strieber has earned his respect, admiration, and friendship, and that he is a man to be taken seriously, and that you'll be hearing from him before it's all over. And so 19, Strieber published a book on September 11th, 1989, titled Majestic, and
Yeah.
acknowledged Moore, Chandray, and Freeman for their assistance in preparing the book. So, Moore's already in bed with Strieber at that point. So,
Wow.
um, and
The
yeah,
Majestic's not a bad book. I kind of like that one actually.
yeah,
It's a
okay.
but
I've never read that one.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
it's interesting. I mean, it's fiction, right? But
Yeah.
it incorporates all these elements that I didn't even realize. I guess I just didn't notice when I read it years ago that he um, acknowledges more in Chandra at the beginning of it. But that's funny. Yeah. But it's a lot of like UFO narratives and especially Roswell type narratives that that whole alien crash landing and stuff that um, he's it's definitely fiction. He's presenting it as fiction, so that's um,
Okay, didn't it like
you
the main narrator in the book say, I'm here to correct him, what here to correct a almost fatal mistake I made or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
It's like really
It's been a while, but I
over.
felt like
It's pretty damn over the top.
I
Uh,
could read you could read it in an afternoon. I don't think I did,
I think
but
I did read it in an afternoon,
yeah, it's
actually.
not that long. It's like
Yeah.
what 220 pages or something.
Mhm.
It's a it's a quick
Yeah.
read,
Well,
but he had a lot of fiction out. Like the Wolfen was one of them, and like cat
Just got
magic
a
and
copy of Wolfen. Just found a copy of that at a book fair, so I'm gonna read that finally.
no, it was funny because that always was the question with him too, where people would claim that he was a fiction author and he would get his fictional stories mixed up with things that he experienced. He'd take great exception to that. He's like,
Mhm.
I know what I've experienced. Yeah.
Would I set myself up for this kind of ridicule art? Would I do that? Oh, wait.
With the huge advance that he got with the book. Yeah, maybe.
I actually heard, did you hear the Area 51 caller live, that the most infamous one?
Oh my, yeah, man.
Yeah, oh,
I've
yeah.
heard it. I mean,
Classic.
I don't think I heard it
I heard
when
it
it
at the
aired.
moment. I heard it when it aired.
Oh
It was
man.
like awesome. I was like on the edge of my seat the whole time. Art, no, I can't talk long. They're coming. It's like, oh my God.
But that guy was a hell of an actor, though. I mean,
Yeah.
that is
Well, that was
some
fantastic.
believable audio. Yeah, yeah.
That was fantastic. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
who
he
was the
could almost.
guy? Who was the guy that was the Area 51 worker that Art had on? He was interviewed. Oh, who was it? Ah, it's driving me crazy now. Was it Victor? Was it?
Well, the same guy.
I
Victor
can't
was the
remember.
guy
He had a
with
guy on who supposedly worked at Area 51, and he
Victor
was
was the guy who smuggled out the alien footage, which was,
that was it.
the alien. That okay.
That was it. That was
He
it.
was on
Yes,
Art
Victor.
Bell. Okay, yeah.
Yes, I remember hearing he was interviewed. I think it was. It may have been David Jacobs was on with him. I can't
Uh,
remember. It was somebody. It was a pretty big ufology fella from the time. I can't remember who it is now. It had been like, oh, it was one of like, oh, never mind. I can't remember now. I don't want to I'll keep talking. I don't want to listen to me babble on. I don't remember. I gotta look it up
Yeah,
now though. So carry
right.
on.
But for listeners, like if you go on YouTube, you can find this Area 51 call
Oh
where the guy
yeah.
is calling in a panic about discoveries or disclosures that he has to get to Art before it's too late. And then there was a blackout at the studio. They were off the air, dead air for I don't know how long. Was it like 5 or 10 minutes, something like that?
yeah.
Yeah. And then he comes back and yeah. Um, listening to that audio, if you listen to that guy, I mean, I'm almost certain he was an actor, and I think Art was in on it. But
It.
what an actor, because the guy really does sound like he's scared for his life. Like he's that voice is it's pretty chilling if you find that video on YouTube and just listen to it. You can it's easy enough to find.
All
So
right, I found this, and now this makes it even better because I forgot about this. He was on with Sean David Morton, which
Oh my God.
okay.
there's some real that's the seal of approval there. That's real good stuff there. But there was I forgot about this that people still think to this day that Victor was Whitley Strieber. It was Whitley Strieber with his voice changed.
Okay.
And if you listen to it, it does sound like Whitley Strieber.
Oh
He has the exact
wow.
same speech patterns as Whitley Strieber. And Whitley Strieber didn't want to be on that episode because he didn't want to take it. He didn't want to take away from
All right. So Whitley Strieber was being modest. That should tell you something.
Oh.
Oh, that's it. That's close it right there. End it right there. That's the truth. But no, I forgot Sean
Um,
David Morton was involved. So yeah, there's integrity for you right there.
who was it that
Well,
had it in for Sean David Morton? Like big time.
I think there were more than one.
Yeah,
yeah,
I know
I
it was
think.
like big on UFO Watchdog. Um, but oh
Oh,
boy.
the guy who does like the Hall of Shame for UFO Watchdog. Yeah, that guy. Can I remember his
Yeah,
name
yeah.
now? But yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
no, yeah, Sean David Morton. There's just
that's
oh,
classic.
Yeah, he passed away
he
recently
did
too,
federal
right?
prison time, didn't he? I think he
Yeah,
did.
he was on the run. I mean, for tax fraud. Um,
Yeah, he ran some kind of Ponzi scheme with you know all that.
yeah, that's been a while. That's another thing I'd have to look up. But
Yeah, never-ending grifts.
Never ending.
All right,
that's
what's your take? Because we mentioned him briefly, but we didn't get into it, and this came up recently. Somebody had told me they were reading this book, and I was like, oh boy, well, they did. Philip Corso and the day after Roswell, like,
yeah. He I read an article in Psychology Today. Now, psychology is probably the least scientific science there is,
it's a soft science, yeah,
but it's an interesting take on why people, somebody like Philip J. Corso, it's a mystery is his military career looks exemplary.
yeah,
He's got a lot of um, I guess awards, medals, whatever. Um, a lot of accolades, I think is the best way to put it, because I don't know what medals he has. But anyway, it's military career looks exemplary. And the article in Psychology Today was about people like that who have these successful careers who make up these UFO stories because that all of a sudden makes them stand out, makes them interesting and memorable, as opposed to you were a good soldier.
Mhm.
Because who the hell would know who Philip Corso is without
Yeah.
that making up a UFO, the whole day after Roswell stuff. And there's so many holes in that tale as well. If you like,
Well, as I understand it, that was originally written to be a treatment for a screenplay to be a
oh,
movie.
okay,
I
but
thought I
there,
think that was the case, and Bill Burns had to like
oh, yeah,
massage
great
it
Bill
into a
Burns,
book. Yeah,
right?
so
And
he
but
got
then
wrapped up in
there's
the whole thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then there's a bunch of FBI files were released on Corso because he was going to work for, I think, a senator, and they wanted to do background check on him. And so in one instance, one of the people he worked with in intelligence called him a parasite, saying he takes other people's information and passes it along as if it was his own. Um, and I think part of it is basically he was a fabricator of stories, and but yeah, I mean it's an interesting psychology, I think, that shows up over and over and over again, is like where you have people who, have they're highly credentialed and have exemplary careers, and they come out, and this is also pretty typical of 80s and 90s ufology, is like these sorts of people would come out of the woodwork with these crazy UFO stories, and you'd buy them. You're supposed to buy them because of their credentials.
Mhm.
And and why would they make something up? Well, this is a reason. It makes them bigger than they are. And also somebody who is exemplary is like, I think Doty's an example of this. If you look at his career, you can find his service records online. This is a guy who's taken classes, who worked himself up from being a gate guard uh, up to a master sergeant, and got himself into a FOSI. You can see his requests. He took a CIA trained disinformation agent. Well, he took a 6-week course and 6 weeks of counter espionage, I believe.
Mhm.
But he was a guy who was striving to be bigger than he was. Uh, and I think that's a kind of part of the personality trait of somebody who would come up and just make up a UFO story, and all of a sudden, bing, you are bigger. You're bigger than life.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I mean, I think that's an important distinction to make that you're making right now is that it's not always monetarily driven. Like the
yeah,
grift doesn't have to be monetary. Some of them just think it's cool to be the UFO guy and
and
like
there's
want to be thought of that way,
yeah,
Like
and
so it
there's
doesn't
an
have to be money involved. Like
yep, and there's another thing too with pathological liars. Just the lie itself is a high.
yeah,
Uh,
getting away with it. Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just straight out telling it, and like and there are a couple of instances where relatives of these people, like there are a couple of there was a famous a really good Men in Black story. I think the guy was a doctor, and uh it
Yeah, the one up in Maine, Old Orchard Beach.
yeah, and what was the story? He told a really good story.
Oh, Hopkins, Herbert Hopkins.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And then I think it was his son came. No, I think it was a nephew of his came out and
Yeah.
said, well, he drank really heavily and he told tall tales all the freaking time.
Yeah, and he
And
loves sci-fi and stuff like
this was one of them. And yeah, and another guy, well, the relatives of Carlos Allende,
yeah.
responsible for the Philadelphia experiment. His
Yeah.
relatives came out and said the same thing about him, how, he faked a heart attack so well. Yeah, he actually read up out of the symptoms of a heart attack, and then faked it so well that EMS people had to check him 3 times to make sure it wasn't real. Um, and yeah, and there's just example after example after example. Like the guy who resurrected the Aztec UFO case, I forgot his name. It was at a 1974 convention in Florida. His son, the same thing, came out and said, Dad used to make up stories, and by God, you better believe him or face his wrath and rejection.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that comes up over and over and over again. But like the 80s and 90s were just uh, it was all over the place, that sort of thing. And sort of
Great time to be a liar. Yeah.
yeah, and Stan Friedman sort of started that with he insisted on having nuclear physicist after his name whenever he was anywhere.
Yeah.
Stanton Friedman, nuclear physicist, always together, always together. And he actually wrote, he says, we have by telling people I'm a nuclear physicist, they believe anything I said. Not that he he wasn't one of the more earnest people, and not that he was making stuff up, but he was well aware of that.
Well,
Um,
he did have a degree, right? Like he didn't
no,
work at.
he didn't
Oh,
never had a PhD. I
wow.
think
Well, yeah, not a PhD,
he
but
wasn't he
yeah,
wasn't a doctor. Yeah, I think he had a
right.
master's. But yeah,
But
he
you
didn't.
see people play fast and loose with this stuff all the time. Like when you see Dr. David
Well,
Jacobs, you think
yeah,
he's a medical doctor or a psychiatrist, but he's not. He just has a PhD in like what, history?
history.
History,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
and John Mack John Mack actually had a degree of psychology
yeah.
and was a doctor, but if you read his documentary, speaking of credulous, read his biography. He was quite credulous.
Hmm.
Um,
Didn't realize that.
yeah, he was
I
into
haven't
a
read
lot
that
of
one.
he was
Yeah,
into a lot of New Age stuff, and it's the other thing, you put it into context. Back when everybody forgets about Shirley MacLaine running around
Yeah.
uh, with yeah, there's the whole
those were the days.
Shirley MacLaine ufology. That was going on back then too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was quite a mishmash in the 80s and 90s. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a higher tolerance for the new agey stuff. Like it's easier for me to read like Tuella because it's just like a fun it's like a fun flight of fancy knowing that this is really kooky new agey stuff. Um
mhm.
but then when it comes to like these documents that exist somewhere and you could have to uncover them and he said, she said stuff. I mean, the intrigue of it was fun back then because it really did seem like a bunch of guys that were, playing cowboys and Indians, but with flying saucers and government
Yeah.
files, like,
Yeah,
like
and
grown men running around LARPing. Like,
Roswell was and the whole MJ-12 is as close as we got to what seemed like an actual smoking gun,
right,
and it's like we were so close, and it all just kind of went,
right.
But yeah, I mean the narrative was tight. The FOIA was strong. People were getting documents out of everywhere, and it really seemed like we were going to get the answer. And yeah, like when you know,
Well, that kind of shifted too to the Bentwaters case, where like that started to become a different kind of Roswell. Like
yeah,
our and then that got beat into the ground, and so many different narratives came out of that, and conflicting documents and conflicting accounts, and then at a certain point when there's too much, there's no telling what's right at all, like what actually is true, and
yeah,
yeah, it all kind of falls apart when you get down to the bare basics of it.
yeah. No, I just find it's best to kick back and enjoy the show, you
Right.
know.
The best you could do is document the people involved and what their claims were, and the reader can decide if you can
Yeah.
give good background and context for it, which I think you do really well in your books and in your articles.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. That's how I stay sane in this morass. It's like just yeah, that the people it's really about people, you know, and at least that's what I'm interested in, and that includes the witnesses too. And
Yeah,
and it seems to me like it's definitely something strange going on.
yeah.
I
I
some of
mean,
this,
even going back to the UFO Cover-Up Live, where you had the Cash Landrum segment,
yeah,
they seemed like the most earnest out of anybody. They were like the most down-to-earth people for the
yeah,
Yeah.
witnesses for the, yeah, yeah,
and yeah, they've been speaking for a bit too, so they were very poised
right.
compared to a lot of the other guests.
I
Yeah,
like
they
that
were
Mike
lively.
Farrell was kind of shocked at the old lady. It's like, I'm mad as hell. I'm mad as
Yeah,
hell at the government. Like, yeah, I love that lady.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And what's funny is that because Doty actually says on UFO Cover-Up Live that that was a
Yeah.
reverse, them test what it was, an
Testing
alien.
reverse engineered alien stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that actually showed up in a APRO file that there was this whole mess between Carl Lorenzen and John Schuessler.
Hmm.
John Schuessler was a MUFON guy, but he also had his own investigative I think Texas-based investigation team group. And because Moore was hanging out with Doty back during that time, he passed information along to the Lorenzens at APRO that this was a military craft and
Yeah,
a military craft gone awry. And so the Lorenzens thought they had the inside scoop on this. So Coral basically is calling John Schuessler out, and there are letters back and forth between them, and they're getting kind of nasty.
hmm,
And she ultimately accused Schuessler and Hynek of being disinformation agents, and, and it's all in these files. And it's all of a sudden you realize the first person was uh, who's the guy who runs the Saucers That Time Forgot?
oh, Kurt
Kurt
Collins.
Collins, thank you. I
Yep.
always want to say Curtis Fuller, but it's Kurt Collins. And I actually have a correspondence with him on email on occasion. But he's the
Yeah,
one
he
who's
does great work for listeners.
yeah,
Go check out
and
Saucers That Time Forgot. Website's
yeah.
awesome.
And
Yeah,
he's also got a site called Blue Blurry Lines because he's particularly fascinated with the Cash Landrum case. So he's
yeah,
the guy that really brought these documents out. And it was at a time when APRO files were in private hands. And
yeah,
I actually got a chance to go out to National UFO Historical Research Center in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, run by David Marler. And I pulled that file, and there was this, he had this people, volunteers. So he had a young volunteer there who, they hang with you
yeah.
while you're looking through the files. And this story poured out of me to this kid. And he was just like, his eyes were big as saucers listening to this story that's coming out of this raw material, you know. And it's really crazy how you just see uh, this whole disinformation stuff get thrown into the mix, and then it comes back at UFO Cover-Up Live. But this was like way back in the APRO files in, like, 1980.
Yeah, yeah, contemporaneous with the event.
Yeah, yeah, and you
And of course,
just
that got covered in National Enquirer, like
yeah,
that case. Like, so that was it's a weird one. It's definitely a weird story,
yeah,
and it's worth looking into. Um, but
yeah.
yeah, the
It's
intrigue around it too. I mean, at the time, you imagine if you're in it in 1980 and investigating this, and um, it's wild to look back on now and see how this all snowballed. But like when
well,
you're in
what's
it
really
in the
funny is
moment, it must be really hard to see.
yeah, well, Bill
Yeah,
English, okay.
yeah,
He was like one of the dark siders, and he was famous for he said he saw a special blue book file that I think 14, number 14 or something like that, that had pictures of alien autopsies and the whole bit.
Mhm.
But English, uh, when the call about the Cash Landrum case came in to the APRO offices, English was there and he took it out from under APRO and went and
Yeah.
investigated it on his own. And I think he told Betty Landrum, Betty Cash and Vicky Landrum. He told Vicky Landrum that her friend would most likely die. And
Jeez.
yeah, which upset the hell out of her naturally. And this is in the correspondence between Schuessler and Lorenzen, you know. And
Trust me, I'm a ufologist. Your friend doesn't have long.
yeah, so
You can trust me. I'm a ufologist.
she
Let Betty know to get right with God, because
so she's got to apologize for English and his handling of the case. And I think, you know, he did tapes of it and they're demanding Cash and Landrum are demanding the tapes that he did back, and they're saying, well, we can't find them. Yeah, there's this whole just scuttlebutt between them all. That's
wow.
actually in the APRO files. But yeah, it got pretty messy, and especially when you throw Bill English into the mix, it's like, oh my God.
Wild.
Mm,
Okay, we've been going for a while now. I mean, we could do this
yeah.
all day probably, because it's
Yeah.
just such a wealth of material to dissect and laugh about. Um, Blackwolf, do you have any final questions for our guest? Uh,
Only thing that comes to mind is I meant to ask about Project Serpo, but God knows we could go on about that for hours too. So I don't know if there's any time for some Project Serpo rap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it shows up in the Mirage Men where the guys say, you know, we investigated and found the IP address of the first email talking about this. And guess whose it is? Richard Doty's.
Richard
right.
Doty.
Surprise!
I think Serpo was the last thing that I remember reading online and thinking it was real. I think that was
Okay.
the last thing because I was like
Yeah.
maybe 2000, maybe 2001, somewhere in that time period. Just credulous enough to believe that this might be true, and I think that was the last thing.
Yeah, Project Serpo might have killed like the whole ufology thing for a while, between that and the Roswell slides. Like that, because they were pretty quiet for a while up until 2017, I guess. Like
Yeah.
it just took the whole thing right off the rails. But yeah,
Right on. Well, yeah,
uh,
it's been great talking with you guys, man. Always good to
yeah,
hang
this is
out.
this has been a lot of fun. What's next on your plate? Where can people find you, and what projects do you have coming up?
Oh, I'm a regular writer, podcastufo.com. I do an audio blog as well, every damn week.
Yeah,
And Martin puts that up on YouTube. And I'm working on the UFO investigators. I'm pondering whether to just put out what I got on the 70s and then go
Volume
separately with
one.
the
Yeah,
volume. Yeah, because the 70s is so much fun.
yeah,
And I'm really, yeah, it's a lot more enjoyable than the 80s and the 90s. I mean, the 80s and 90s are enjoyable for other reasons, but yeah, anyway, that's where
yeah.
I'm at. So
Okay,
anyway,
great.
always great talking to you, man. And pleasure to meet you, Blackwolf.
Right
And
back at you, man. This has been a blast.
yeah, all right, peace out, guys.
All right, later.
Cheers.